everyone, I'm Nik Nocturnal, and that was the guitar riff that basically changed my whole life. Avenged Sevenfold, Unholy Confession. Now, it's not one of the first guitar riffs I ever really learned or even heard. Funny enough, I grew up first listening to stuff that my cousin would actually always play, which would be like punk, like NoFX, Rancid, Blink-182, and then more so classic rock like Guns N' Roses and Led Zeppelin, thanks to even things like Guitar Hero. But this was a riff that one day my cousin just put on some Avenged Sevenfold, and my mind was blown. At that time, you know, he was also playing like Alexis on Fire, some Underoath, some As I Lay Dying as well too, which is the follow-up that changed my life after this one, which was As I Lay Dying. Through Struggle, that riff, crazy. But Unholy Confessions was the first one that I really heard when I was already playing guitar, that I was just like, I need to do that. I want that. And just something about the melody mixture that had this dark undertone to it, because they use a lot of harmonic minor and chromaticism, which I had no clue what that was at the time. And just this pattern that I always make fun of nowadays, because it's an iconic pattern in the metalcore community, which is the 5-7-8. Right, which at that time I thought that was just game changing, even though, you know, that was nothing really necessarily new. There was bands before them that have done the 5-7-8, you know, in a drop tuning, in this case in drop D. But you know, that really set the precedent of a lot of riffs that I grew up just loving, that, you know, were in drop D, drop C, that use that 5-7-8 pattern. But something always stuck with me with Unholy Confessions, that main riff, like where even, you know, 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 15 years down the line, that was always weirdly a riff I could remember. I've learned so many riffs and songs over the years that like I would just forget like within a week. But that riff, if at any point in my life someone was like, hey, pick up guitar and play Unholy Confessions, I could usually do it, which was weird to me. But that riff just, it stuck with me. It was just so special. I love the third harmonies too, right? That's something that I was introduced to through that song, harmony, which is something I use, you know, to this day in terms of guitar leads and solos, and that really made me love all the special things involved with 2000s metalcore. You know, even though Avenged is really not a metalcore band by any means, but Waking the Fallen as an album is just this fun metalcore, you know, adventure with extremely dark melodies and crazy chromaticism, which I just never heard before ever in my life before that moment. And it changed everything for me. I wanted everything to always just sound super dark. I always wanted to 5-7 and 8 it up. You know, I want harmonic minor. Any way I could get it, basically. And chromaticism too. I was mind blown at the idea of doing things like, you know, using chromatic notes, and it's like, oh, it's outside of the minor scale, and it working and finding ways to make it work, you know, because I was just learning guitar still at that time, getting into metal, and I didn't have like jazz theory or classical theory. And funny enough, that stuff is really what got me into liking classical music later on, as well as video game music, because it uses a lot of that stuff. So to this day, that riff and the theory and the melody choices and note choices and scales used is a big part of what I do, even in my band Termina and a lot of stuff, because it's something just so special. I don't know how else to put it, but, you know, 5-7-8, I hope it lives on forever. So yeah, that riff is what got me hooked and turned me into a core kid for life.